When a boy with the power to transform falls through the stars into a galaxy ruled by darkness, the Empire sees only a weapon to claim. The ancient force flows differently through each of his alien forms, some bright with light, others resonant with darkness. As Imperial ships blacken Tatooine's twin-sunned sky and Darth Vader's mechanical breath echoes through crystalline caves, the boy's strange device glows with power no Jedi has witnessed before. Will this visitor from another universe become the Empire's greatest weapon, or its unexpected undoing? The twin suns of Tatooine cast long shadows across the Jundland wastes as Imperial probe droids scoured the canyons. Their crimson scanning beams cut through billowing dust, searching for something that had fallen from the stars. Not a meteorite, not a crashed shuttle. Something that had torn a wound in the very fabric of hyperspace itself. Something that even Lord Vader had felt as a tremor in the Force. Aboard the Star Destroyer, Executor Darth Vader stood motionless before the viewport. His mechanical breathing echoed through the bridge as officers worked in terrified silence. The Dark Lord had not moved for hours, his masked visage fixed on the desert planet below. He had sensed it the moment it arrived. A power unlike anything he had encountered since the Clone Wars. Not Jedi, not Sith, something utterly alien to this galaxy. Lord Vader. Admiral Piet approached cautiously, datapad in hand. Our scouts report an unusual energy signature in the Jundland wastes. It appears to be moving. Vader's helmet turned slightly. Prepare my shuttle. Across the scorching dunes, a boy stumbled forward. His blue and white shirt torn, his brown hair matted with sweat, Ben10 clutched his wrist where the Omnitrix gleamed under the alien suns. The last thing he remembered was fighting alongside Gwen and Grandpa Max against one of Vilgax's drones. There had been an explosion, a tear in reality, and then this, wasteland. 2 suns, endless sand, and a strange energy that seemed to flow through everything, including him. "Hello?" Ben called out, his voice swallowed by the vastness. "Anybody? Gwen? Grandpa Max?" The Omnitrix sparked, its interface flickering between green and an unusual blue he had never seen before. Something in this place was affecting it, interfacing with the alien technology in ways Ben couldn't understand. He tried to activate it, but the dial remained locked, the silhouettes of his transformations scrambled and unrecognizable. A low, mechanical hum drew his attention to the horizon. 3 speeder bikes approached, piloted by soldiers in white armor that gleamed painfully bright in the sunlight. Stormtroopers. Though Ben had no way of knowing what they were called, every instinct told him they meant trouble. "Hey!" he waved desperately, ignoring his better judgment. "I need help. I'm lost." The speeders circled him, blasters drawn. "Identify yourself," the lead trooper commanded. "I'm Ben10. I'm not from around here. There was some kind of accident, and check his wrist," another trooper interrupted, gesturing to the Omnitrix. "That's it. That's what the scanners detected." The lead stormtrooper dismounted, approaching Ben with caution. "You will come with us. Lord Vader wants that device." Ben backed away. "Look, I don't know who Lord Vader is, but this watch doesn't come off. It's kind of stuck to me." "Then we'll take the arm too." The stormtrooper raised his blaster. "The choice is yours." Ben felt a surge of adrenaline. He twisted the Omnitrix dial desperately, praying it would work. Come on, I need you now." To his relief, the familiar silhouette of Heat Blast appeared. He slammed his palm down on the watch. Green light engulfed him. The stormtroopers stepped back, shielding their visors. When the light faded, where the boy had stood was now a towering creature of living flame. "You guys picked the wrong kid to mess with," Heat Blast shouted, his voice crackling like fire. He thrust his hands forward, expecting the usual torrent of flames. What happened instead shook the desert. The fire that erupted from his palms was not just flame, but something more. It roared with unnatural power, tearing through the air with such force that the nearest speeder bike was thrown backward nearly 50 meters before exploding. Ben felt something flow through him, amplifying his powers beyond anything he had experienced before. The stormtroopers opened fire. Their blaster bolts sizzled through the air, but Heat Blast raised his hand instinctively. To his shock, the bolts stopped mid-flight, hovering for a moment before dropping harmlessly to the sand. "Did I just—" Ben whispered to himself, staring at his flaming hands in disbelief. "How did I do that?" He had no time to consider it further. The remaining stormtroopers were calling for reinforcements. Ben concentrated, summoning a wall of fire between himself and his attackers. Again, the flames responded with uncanny intensity, swirling into a vortex that whipped sand and rock into a blinding storm. Using the distraction, Ben ran. Each stride of Heat Blast's powerful legs carried him farther than should have been possible, as though the very air was propelling him forward. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing for certain. In this strange place, his aliens were different, stronger, connected to something vast and invisible. Miles away, nestled within a hidden canyon, Taran Sol felt the disturbance. The aging Jedi Knight had survived the purge by retreating to the Outer Rim, living as a hermit among the nomadic Sand People. For 15 years, he had kept his connection to the Force muted, a whisper rather than the song it had once been. But this was impossible to ignore. He opened eyes that had once been azure blue but had faded to the same weathered gray as his beard. The Force signature approaching was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Not light, not dark. A chaotic swirl of energy that seemed to draw from the living Force in ways no Jedi or Sith had ever managed. Taran reached for the lightsaber hidden beneath the floorboards of his humble dwelling. Its weight was both familiar and foreign after so many years. The kyber crystal within hummed in response to his touch, awakening from its long dormancy. "So," he murmured to the empty room, "it seems the Force is not finished with me yet." He stepped outside into the harsh Tatooine evening, eyes fixed on the distant plume of smoke and fire moving with purpose through the wastes. Whatever was coming, it would reach him before nightfall. Imperial Shuttle Theta Class ST-321 descended through Tatooine's atmosphere, flanked by TIE fighters. Inside, Darth Vader meditated, reaching out through the Force toward the anomaly. What he found both intrigued and disturbed him. The power signature kept changing. One moment, it burned hot as a star. The next, it vanished completely, only to reappear with entirely different properties. Vader opened his eyes. This was no Jedi trick. This was something new. Something that perhaps even the Emperor did not know existed, and that made it valuable beyond measure. "My lord," the pilot's voice interrupted his thoughts. "We have reports of casualties. The subject has displayed pyrokinetic abilities and unusual Force techniques." "Force techniques?" Vader's voice betrayed a hint of surprise. The report states the subject halted blaster bolts mid-air without apparent effort. "The troops are requesting heavy reinforcements." Vader stood. "No. Tell them to track but not engage. This prey requires a more precise approach." Ben finally collapsed behind a large rock formation, exhausted. The Omnitrix timed out, and in a flash of red light, he reverted to human form. His entire body ached in ways he had never experienced after a transformation. It felt as though his very cells had been stretched beyond their limits. "What is going on with this thing?" he muttered, examining the Omnitrix. The usual green glow had a strange bluish tinge to it, and the alien silhouettes in the selection interface seemed to pulse with newfound energy. Night was falling rapidly, the temperature dropping with alarming speed. Ben shivered, trying to make sense of his situation. The soldiers in white armor, the strange energy enhancing his powers, the endless desert with twin suns. It was like he had fallen into another universe entirely. "Because you have." A quiet voice spoke from behind him. Ben whirled around to find an old man standing there, wrapped in weathered robes the color of sand. His gray beard reached to his chest, and in his hand was a metal cylinder that Ben couldn't identify. "Who are you?" Ben demanded, his hand hovering over the Omnitrix even though he knew it hadn't recharged. "How did you find me?" The old man studied him with eyes that seemed to see more than they should. "My name is Terran Sol. Once, I was a knight of the Jedi Order. Now, I am simply a hermit trying to avoid the Empire's notice." He gestured to the Omnitrix. "That device you wear, it resonates with the Force in ways I have never witnessed." "The Force?" Ben repeated. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about. I just need to find a way back home." Terran stepped closer, his movements graceful despite his age. "The Empire will not stop hunting you. That much is certain. I sensed your arrival like a shockwave through the Force. If I felt it, then Vader certainly did as well." "Vader. That's the second time I've heard that name." Ben's shoulders slumped. Those guys in white armor mentioned him too. Darth Vader, the Emperor's enforcer. Once, he was a Jedi Knight. Now he serves the dark side, hunting down and destroying any who might challenge the Empire's rule. Terran's eyes fixed on the Omnitrix. "May I?" Ben hesitated, then cautiously extended his arm. Terran did not touch the device, merely hovering his weathered hand over it. His eyes closed in concentration. "Extraordinary," he breathed. "It contains the essence of multiple life forms, yet bound to your specific genetic code. And somehow, it interacts with the Force through you, channeling it in ways unique to each form you take." "The Force," Ben repeated. "You keep saying that. What is it?" Terran smiled sadly. "The Force is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together. Jedi are trained to feel it, to draw upon it. What you experienced today was your alien forms connecting to it instinctively." Ben's eyes widened. "So that's why Heat Blast's powers were so much stronger, and how I stopped those laser blasts." "Indeed. Though I suspect each of your transformations will interact with the Force differently. Some may draw from what we call the light side, others," Terran's expression grew troubled, "others may naturally attune to the dark." A distant rumble interrupted them. Terran tensed, his hand gripping the metal cylinder. "They've found us. Imperial walkers." He turned to Ben. "We must leave immediately. My dwelling isn't far, but we'll never reach it on foot before they arrive." Ben stood, feeling the Omnitrix growing warm against his skin. The interface glowed brighter, indicating it had recharged. "I think I can help with that. Just stand back." He activated the watch, cycling through the silhouettes until he found what he was looking for. "Let's see how XLR-8 handles this Force thing." The flash of transformation illuminated the darkening canyon. Where Ben had stood was now a sleek, blue-skinned alien with wheels for feet and a visor covering most of its face. "Hop on, old-timer." XLR-8 beckoned, crouching to allow Terran to climb onto his back. Terran hesitated only briefly before complying. "Most impressive. This form feels different in the Force. Lighter, less volatile." "Hold tight," Ben warned. Then he ran. The world blurred around them as XLR-8 accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible even for his species. Ben felt the strange energy, the Force, flowing through him again, but differently than with Heat Blast. Instead of amplifying raw power, it seemed to bend space itself, allowing him to move with such velocity that the Imperial walkers in the distance appeared frozen in time. Terran clung to him, his voice barely audible over the rush of wind. "Incredible. You're tapping into Force speed as naturally as breathing." Within minutes, they arrived at a small, dome-shaped dwelling built into the side of a canyon wall. XLR-8 skidded to a halt, letting Terran dismount before transforming back to human form in another flash of light. "That was... wow," Ben panted, feeling the same strange exhaustion. "It's like XLR-8 was moving through water instead of air, so smooth." Terran nodded, ushering him inside. "The Force enhances your abilities, but it also draws upon your own energy. You must be cautious. Overexertion could be dangerous until you learn proper control." The interior of Taran's home was sparse but surprisingly cool compared to the desert heat. Strange artifacts lined the shelves, and a collection of ancient-looking books sat upon a small table. "We should be safe here for the night," Taran said, retrieving a container of water. "The canyon walls contain minerals that disrupt scanning technology. By morning, we'll need to move again." Ben accepted the water gratefully. "Move where? I don't even know where I am. Or when, or what galaxy this is." Taran settled across from him. "You are in a galaxy very different from your own during the reign of the Galactic Empire. The Republic fell nearly 2 decades ago, and with it, the Jedi Order. Those of us who survived the Purge live in hiding. So you're like space wizards?" Ben asked, trying to process everything. A small smile cracked Taran's weathered face. "In a manner of speaking, though we prefer the term Jedi Knight." He reached for the metal cylinder he carried. "This is a lightsaber, the weapon of a Jedi." With a fluid motion, he activated it. A brilliant blue beam of energy extended from the hilt, with a distinctive hum that seemed to vibrate the air itself. Ben's eyes widened. "Okay, that's seriously cool. This crystal," Taran indicated the hilt, deactivating the blade, "is called Kyber. It's attuned to the Force, much like your device seems to be. In fact," he paused, studying the Omnitrix again, "I suspect that's why you were brought here." "What do you mean?" "The Force works in mysterious ways, Ben10. It has a will of its own. Perhaps it called to your device across the boundaries of reality itself." Before Ben could respond, a low rumble shook the dwelling. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. "They're deploying seismic charges," Taran said grimly, "trying to flush us out. We have less time than I thought." He moved to a concealed compartment in the floor, retrieving a small bag and what looked like a comlink. "There's a settlement called Mos Eisley. We can find transport there. Get off-world before the Empire locks down the planet completely." "Off-world?" Ben repeated. "You mean go to another planet?" "Several, most likely. We'll need to keep moving." Taran glanced at the Omnitrix. "That device is powerful, but Vader commands legions. And if the Emperor learns of your existence..." Another explosion, closer this time. Taran moved to the door, peering out into the darkness. Star destroyers in orbit, TIE squadrons patrolling the canyons. They're committing significant resources to this hunt. Ben joined him at the doorway. In the distance, searchlights swept across the desert floor. The silhouettes of massive 4-legged machines stalked through the wastes, firing into the canyons at random. "Those are AT-ATs, Taran explained. "All-terrain armored transports, the Empire's heaviest ground assault vehicles." Ben watched in horror as one of the walkers fired at a ridge, collapsing an entire section of canyon. "They're destroying everything just to find me? Not just you. Your device." Taran's expression darkened. Vader would stop at nothing to acquire such power. And if he were to somehow replicate it or extract its secrets? The implication hung in the air. Ben looked down at the Omnitrix, suddenly feeling the weight of responsibility more keenly than ever before. This wasn't like fighting the bad guys back home. These Imperials were willing to level an entire planet to get what they wanted. "Then we need to make sure they don't get it," Ben said firmly. "How far is this Mos Eisley place?" "Too far to reach before sunrise without being spotted," Taran admitted. "But I know these wastes. There are caves that run beneath the surface, used by the Sand People during the worst storms. We can use them to travel undetected." Another explosion rocked the dwelling, this one close enough to send both of them, staggering. "I think our time just ran out," Ben said. The Omnitrix glowed brightly on his wrist, ready for use. "What alien would work best for caves?" Taran considered. "Something that can move quietly but defend if necessary, and perhaps see in darkness." Ben nodded, activating the watch and cycling through his options. "I think I've got just the thing. Wild Mutt should be perfect." The transformation was immediate. Where Ben stood was now a large, orange-furred creature with no eyes, but multiple gill-like nostrils along its neck and shoulders. It moved on 4 powerful limbs, each ending in sharp claws. Terran stepped back in surprise. This one feels primal in the Force, connected to instinct rather than conscious thought. Wildmutt growled in agreement, unable to speak in this form. He gestured with his head toward the back of the dwelling, sniffing intently. "You sense something," Terran realized. "A path?" Another affirmative growl. Wildmutt led the way to what appeared to be a solid rock wall. He pawed at it insistently. Terran placed his hand on the stone, closing his eyes. "Ah, yes, there is a passage here, hidden." He stepped back, extending his hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a grinding sound, a section of the wall slid aside, revealing a narrow tunnel. "The Force can be used to manipulate physical objects," Terran explained, "though I am out of practice." Wildmutt sniffed the air, then padded into the tunnel, motioning for Terran to follow. The Jedi grabbed a small illuminator from his bag, casting a soft blue glow ahead of them as the hidden door slid shut behind them. They moved through the darkness, Wildmutt's enhanced senses guiding them through a maze of tunnels that seemed to extend for miles beneath the desert. Occasionally, they would feel tremors from Imperial bombardment above, but the sounds grew more distant as they progressed. After what felt like hours, they emerged into a larger cavern. Ancient paintings covered the walls, depicting humanoid figures hunting massive beasts. Terran studied them with interest. These are old, predating human settlement on Tatooine. The indigenous Sand people consider these caves sacred. Wildmutt suddenly tensed, growling low in his throat. His head swiveled toward one of the tunnel entrances. "What is it?" Terran whispered, hand moving to his lightsaber. A moment later, the answer came in the form of a massive reptilian creature that lumbered into the cavern. Nearly 5 meters long, with razor-sharp teeth and claws that could tear through durasteel. "Sand dragon," Terran breathed. "They're supposed to be extinct." The dragon roared, its eyes fixing on the intruders in its domain. It charged with surprising speed for a creature of its size. Wildmutt leapt to meet it, his powerful limbs colliding with the dragon's scaled hide. But the beast was stronger, throwing him aside with a sweep of its massive tail. Terran ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade illuminating the cavern. He moved with a grace that belied his years, ducking beneath the dragon's jaws and scoring a glancing blow along its neck. The lightsaber cut through scales, drawing a pained roar from the creature. Wildmutt recovered, circling to flank the dragon. Ben felt something unusual happening, the Force flowing through this form differently than the others. It heightened his already formidable senses, allowing him to perceive the dragon's movements before they happened. A kind of precognition. The dragon lunged at Terran, who parried with his lightsaber but was knocked off balance. As it moved in for the kill, Wildmutt sprang. This time, guided by his Force-enhanced instincts, he landed precisely on the dragon's blind spot, digging his claws into the wound Terran had created. The dragon thrashed wildly, trying to dislodge him. Terran seized the opportunity, rolling beneath the beast and thrusting his lightsaber upward into its vulnerable underbelly. The blade pierced through, emerald, blood sizzling against the energy beam. With a final guttural roar, the sand dragon collapsed. Wildmutt jumped clear, transforming back to human form as the Omnitrix timed out. Ben fell to his knees, gasping for breath. That was intense. Terran deactivated his lightsaber, equally winded. "You fought well. Your instincts in that form are remarkable." "It was weird," Ben admitted, "like I could see what the dragon was going to do before it did it. Precognition. A Jedi ability." Terran helped him to his feet. "The Force manifests differently through each of your transformations. This one seemed particularly attuned to sensing danger." They rested briefly, drinking from Terran's water supply and tending to minor wounds. The dragon's corpse lay still, steam rising from the cauterized lightsaber wounds. "We should continue," Terran said finally. Mos Eisley is still several hours away, even through these tunnels. Ben nodded, but as he stood, the Omnitrix began to pulse with an unusual pattern of light. Both green and blue energy swirled around the device, and the dial rotated of its own accord. "What's happening?" he asked, alarmed. Taryn stepped back, eyes wide. "It's resonating with something. The Kyber crystal in my lightsaber, perhaps. Or something else nearby." Before either could investigate further, a new sound reached them. The rhythmic breathing of mechanical lungs, echoing through the tunnels. "Vader," Taryn whispered, face draining of color. "How did he find us?" "The dragon," Ben realized. "The noise of the fight must have given us away." The breathing grew louder. A red glow began to illuminate one of the tunnel entrances, casting long shadows across the cavern floor. "Ben," Taryn said urgently, "listen to me. If Vader captures you, the consequences will be catastrophic. That device must not fall into Imperial hands. What are we going to do?" Ben asked, fear evident in his voice. Taryn's expression hardened. "I will hold him off. You must continue, through the tunnels." He pressed a small device into Ben's hand. "This comlink is tuned to a secure frequency. When you reach Mos Eisley, contact the person listed as Fulcrum. Tell them Taryn Sol sent you. They can help you find passage off-world." "I'm not leaving you to face him alone," Ben protested. "You must." Taryn's voice brooked no argument. "This is not your war, Ben Tennyson, but that device you wear could tip the balance of power irrevocably if Vader claims it." The red glow intensified. The sound of mechanical breathing was now unmistakable. "Go!" Taryn pushed him toward the far tunnel. "Follow that passage. It will lead you to the edge of the Jundland wastes. Mos Eisley lies beyond." Ben hesitated, torn between his instinct to help and the logic of Taryn's argument. The Omnitrix was still recharging, its interface flickering erratically. "I'll come back for you," he promised. Taryn offered a sad smile. "May the Force be with you, Ben Tennyson." Ben sprinted for the tunnel, Taryn's illuminator clutched in one hand, the comlink in the other. Behind him, he heard the distinctive hum of a lightsaber activating, followed by another, deeper sound. The same energy, but somehow corrupted, malevolent. He risked a single glance back. Taryn stood in the center of the cavern, blue lightsaber raised in a defensive stance. Opposite him, a towering figure in black armor, wielding a blade the color of blood. Darth Vader had arrived. Taryn felt a strange calm settle over him as he faced his former brother in arms. Though Vader's mask revealed nothing, Taryn knew the Sith Lord recognized him, Taryn Sol. Vader's mechanically amplified voice echoed through the cavern. "You have hidden yourself well." "Not well enough, it seems." Taryn adjusted his grip on his lightsaber. "I've grown old, Anakin, but not defenseless. That name no longer has meaning for me." Vader advanced slowly. "Where is the boy?" "Beyond your reach." "Nothing is beyond my reach." Vader raised his free hand. Taryn felt invisible fingers close around his throat, lifting him off the ground. "The device he carries, what is it?" Taryn struggled against the Force choke, managing to break it with a counter-surge of Force energy, a technique he had not used in 15 years. He dropped to one knee, gasping. "Even if I knew, I would not tell you." "Then you will die ignorant," Vader declared, raising his lightsaber. Taryn lunged forward, blue blade meeting red in a cascade of sparks. Though aged, his Form 3 defensive style allowed him to parry Vader's powerful strikes. For a brief moment, he even drove the Sith Lord back with a series of precise counters. But it could not last. Vader was stronger, his connection to the dark side fueling each devastating blow. A Force push sent Taryn crashing against the cavern wall. His lightsaber clattered to the ground, rolling away. Vader stalked forward. "Your skills have diminished, old friend." Taryn rose shakily to his feet. "Perhaps, but some things grow stronger with age." He closed his eyes, centering himself in the Force. like wisdom and sacrifice. With his remaining strength, Terran reached out through the Force to the cavern ceiling above them. Cracks spread through ancient rock, dust raining down. Vader realized his intention too late. "Fool," he bellowed, raising his hands to counter the collapsing ceiling. But Terran had committed his entire being to this final act. Tons of rock descended, burying both Jedi and Sith Lord beneath the ruins of the sacred cave. Ben heard the collapse behind him, felt the rush of displaced air as the tunnel system shuddered. Tears streamed down his face as he ran, knowing what Terran had done. Sacrificed himself to buy time, to give Ben a chance to escape. The tunnels began to slope upward. Ahead, he could see faint starlight. The exit. He emerged onto a ridge overlooking a vast desert plain. In the distance, the lights of what must be Mos Eisley twinkled like fallen stars. Ben looked down at the comlink in his hand, then at the Omnitrix, which had finally stopped its erratic behavior. The interface glowed a steady green once more, though flecks of blue still swirled within its depths. "I won't waste this chance," he whispered. "I promise, Terran." He began the long trek toward the settlement, knowing that somewhere beneath the sand, a Jedi Knight had given his life to protect not just Ben, but an entire galaxy from what the Omnitrix might become in the wrong hands. Dawn was breaking as Ben reached the outskirts of Mos Eisley. The spaceport was unlike anything he had ever seen, a chaotic blend of alien architecture, with ships of various designs landing and departing from scattered docking bays. Beings of species he couldn't begin to identify moved through the dusty streets, conducting business or simply trying to survive in the harsh desert environment. Ben kept to the shadows, aware that Imperial patrols could be searching for him. The comlink, Terran, had given him felt heavy in his pocket. He had tried to use it during his journey, but had received no response from this mysterious fulcrum. His stomach growled painfully. He hadn't eaten since arriving in this galaxy, and the multiple transformations had drained his energy reserves dangerously low. He needed food, water, and a safe place to rest. A market square opened up before him, stalls selling everything from exotic fruits to mechanical parts. Ben's eyes fixed on a vendor cooking some kind of meat over an open flame. The smell made his mouth water. Before he could decide how to proceed, a commotion erupted at the far end of the square. Imperial stormtroopers were conducting a sweep, checking identifications and questioning locals. They were methodically working their way toward Ben's position. "Great," he muttered. "Just what I needed." The Omnitrix was recharged, but using it would instantly give away his position. He needed another solution. A hand suddenly gripped his shoulder. Ben whirled around, ready to defend himself, only to find a Twi'lek female with blue skin and elaborate headtails regarding him with surprising intensity. "You're him," she said quietly. "The one they're hunting." Ben tensed. "I don't know what you're talking about." She rolled her eyes. "Save it, kid. Fulcrum sent me. My name is Numa." Relief washed over him. "You know Fulcrum? Terran told me to make contact, but the comlink isn't working." "Imperial jammers." Numa glanced toward the approaching stormtroopers. "We need to move. Follow me. Act casual." She led him through a narrow alleyway, away from the market square. Ben struggled to keep up with her brisk pace. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Docking Bay 94. We have a ship waiting. If we can get you off-world, we have a better chance of figuring out what that thing is." She nodded toward the Omnitrix. "It's called the Omnitrix," Ben explained. "It lets me transform into different alien species." Numa shot him a skeptical look. "I've seen a lot of strange tech in my time with the Rebellion, but nothing like what the reports described. They say you stopped blaster bolts mid-air, moved faster than sight, generated fire hot enough to melt durasteel." "Yeah, that's not normally how my aliens work," Ben admitted. "Something about this place, this force that Terran mentioned, it's amplifying their abilities." They turned another corner and froze. A squad of stormtroopers blocked the path ahead, conducting a building-by-building search. Back, Numa hissed, pulling Ben into a recessed doorway. We'll have to find another route. But it was too late. One of the troopers had spotted them. You there, stop. Numa cursed under her breath, drawing a small blaster from her belt. Run, she ordered. I'll hold them off. Not a chance, Ben replied, activating the Omnitrix. It's hero time. The flash of green light momentarily blinded the approaching stormtroopers. When it faded, where Ben had stood was now a crystalline being, its body composed of diamond-hard material that refracted the morning sunlight in dazzling patterns. Diamond Head, Ben announced. Let's see how your blasters handle this. The stormtroopers opened fire. Blaster bolts struck Diamond Head's crystalline form, only to be reflected back at the shooters with perfect accuracy. 2 troopers fell immediately, their armor scorched by their own weapon's energy. Numa stared in amazement. That's impossible. Trust me, lady. I gave up on impossible a long time ago, Diamond Head replied. He thrust his arms forward, sharp crystal shards erupting from his forearms and embedding themselves in the walls around the remaining troopers, trapping them in place. This way. Numa recovered from her shock, leading him down an adjacent alley. The docking bay isn't far. They ran through the winding streets of Mos Eisley, avoiding Imperial patrols where possible, dispatching them quickly when necessary. Diamond Head's abilities, enhanced by the force flowing through his crystalline structure, proved devastatingly effective against the stormtroopers' tactics. Finally, they reached a large circular pit containing a small wedge-shaped vessel. Its hull was battered but clean, with faded blue markings along its sides. That's our ride? Diamond Head asked dubiously. The Whisper Bird may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, Numa replied, keying a code into the entry ramp controls. And right now, speed is what we need most. The ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss. Numa hurried aboard, Ben following after reverting to human form in another flash of light. The ship's interior was cramped but functional. A twisting corridor led to a small cockpit, where a gray-skinned alien with large black eyes was running through pre-flight checks. Numa, did you find the... The alien stopped short upon seeing Ben. Is this him? He doesn't look like much. Appearances can be deceiving, Gur, Numa replied. I've seen what he can do. Trust me, the Imperials have good reason to be hunting him, Gur grunted, returning to the controls. We've got incoming. TIE patrol vectoring in from the east. How soon can we launch? Numa strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat, gesturing for Ben to take one of the passenger seats behind them. 2 minutes for a cold start, Gur replied. Those TIEs will be on us before we clear atmosphere. Ben leaned forward. I can help with that. Just get us airborne. The engines rumbled to life, vibrating through the ship's frame. Outside, the distinctive scream of TIE fighter engines grew louder. Gur, get us up, Numa shouted. Ben, whatever you're planning, do it now. The Whisper Bird lifted off, repulsor lift straining as it rose from the docking bay. Through the viewport, Ben could see 4 TIE fighters approaching in tight formation. I need to get outside, he said, already moving toward the ship's airlock. Are you insane? Ger called after him. We're about to hit the upper atmosphere. Trust me. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through his options. Just get me on the hull. Numa followed him to the airlock. There's a maintenance hatch on the dorsal section, but without a spacesuit, won't need one. Ben found the alien he was looking for and slammed his palm onto the watch. In a flash of green light, his body transformed into a silicon-based lifeform with volcanic rock for skin and flames erupting from his head and shoulders. Heat blast again, he said. Perfect. Numa stared in disbelief. What? What are you? Right now? I'm your best chance of getting past those TIEs. Heat blast grinned, flames licking along his jawline. Open the hatch. The ship shuddered as the first laser blasts from the TIE fighters struck its shields. Numa hesitated only briefly before activating the hatch controls. Decompression alarms blared as the maintenance access opened to the thin upper atmosphere of Tatooine. Heat blast pulled himself onto the hull, the heat of his body forming handholds in the metal plating. The TIEs screamed past, banking for another attack run. The Whisper Bird's defensive lasers returned fire, but the Imperial fighters were too nimble to hit. Ben concentrated, feeling the force flow through his fiery form. It was different this time, more controlled, less chaotic than his first transformation. He directed the energy purposefully, channeling it through Heat Blast's natural abilities. The first TIE came straight at the ship, lasers blazing. Ben thrust his hands forward, sending not just a stream of fire but a concentrated beam of pure thermal energy. It struck the TIE's cockpit viewport with pinpoint precision, flash melting the transparent steel and incinerating the pilot within. The fighter spiraled away, crashing into the desert below. The remaining 3 TIEs broke formation, circling more cautiously now. "Oh yeah," Heat Blast grinned. "Now we're talking." 2 more TIEs came in from opposite sides, trying to catch him in a crossfire. Ben waited until the last possible moment, then propelled himself upward with a massive jet of flame. The TIE's laser fire crossed paths, striking each other instead of their target. One exploded immediately, the other spinning away with a damaged solar panel. The final TIE pilot, realizing the danger, broke off his attack run and accelerated away, presumably to call for reinforcements. "Oh no, you don't," Ben muttered. He gathered the force energy swirling within him, compressing it into a burning sphere between his palms. The sensation was indescribable, raw power concentrated to a single point. With a roar, he hurled the fireball. It streaked through the atmosphere like a comet, trailing blue-white flame. The TIE pilot attempted evasive maneuvers, but the projectile tracked its movement, guided by Ben's instinctive connection to the Force. The impact obliterated the fighter completely, leaving only scattered debris falling back toward the desert. Exhausted, Ben pulled himself back through the maintenance hatch. The moment it sealed, he collapsed on the deck, reverting to human form. Numa stood over him, eyes wide. I've never seen anything like that, not even from a Jedi." "Is that a good thing?" Ben asked weakly. She helped him to his feet. "Let's get you something to eat. Then we need to talk about what happens next." In the ship's small galley, Ben devoured a meal of unfamiliar but surprisingly tasty rations. Numa sat across from him, watching with a mixture of fascination and wariness. "Where are we heading?" Ben asked between mouthfuls. "A rebel outpost on Dantooine," she replied. "It's remote enough to give us time to figure out what to do with you." "What do you mean, do with me?" Numa sighed. "Ben, you have to understand. That device you wear, combined with this unusual connection to the Force, it makes you potentially the most powerful weapon in the galaxy." "I'm not a weapon," Ben said firmly. "I'm just trying to find a way home." "I know, and we'll try to help you with that. But right now, there are only 2 sides in this war, the Empire and the Rebellion, and both would see you as an asset to be controlled." Ben set down his utensils, appetite suddenly diminished. "So what makes you different from the Imperials?" "We're not going to force you to do anything," Numa assured him. "But we can't ignore what you represent either. If there's a way to send you home, we'll find it. In the meantime, though, you want me to help your rebellion." Ben finished for her. "The Empire is enslaving entire worlds, Ben, massacring species they deem inferior, building weapons capable of destroying planets. If someone with your abilities could be convinced to help us, even temporarily," Ben thought of Taran, sacrificing himself to buy Ben's escape. "What would you have me do? I'm just a kid." "A kid who just took down 4 TIE fighters single-handedly," Numa pointed out. "But that's a discussion for when we reach Dantooine. For now, you should rest." She showed him to a small cabin with a single bunk. "We'll reach Dantooine in about 8 hours. Try to sleep." Left alone, Ben lay on the narrow bunk, staring at the metal ceiling. The events of the past day swirled in his mind. Another universe. The Force. The Empire. Terran's sacrifice. It was overwhelming. He lifted his arm, examining the Omnitrix. Its interface seemed to have stabilized, the occasional flickers of blue energy now fully integrated with the familiar green glow. Whatever effect this galaxy's force was having on the device, it appeared to be permanent. "What have we gotten ourselves into this time?" he whispered to the empty room. Sleep eventually claimed him, but his dreams were troubled. Visions of Darth Vader pursuing him across endless deserts. The dying light in Terran's eyes as the cavern collapsed. And something else. A presence in the Force, ancient and powerful, reaching out to him across the stars. Ben awoke with a start as the ship shuddered around him. For a moment, he thought they were under attack again, but the regular pattern of vibrations suggested they were merely dropping out of hyperspace. He made his way to the cockpit, where Numa and Gur were guiding the Whisperbird toward a lush green planet. "Dantooine," Numa explained, noticing him. "One of the few places in the outer rim the Empire doesn't bother with. Too remote, too little strategic value. Perfect for a rebel base," Ben surmised. "Exactly." The ship descended through wispy clouds, revealing vast grasslands stretching to the horizon, punctuated by occasional rocky outcroppings and scattered forests. They approached what appeared to be an ancient structure of stone, partially reclaimed by vegetation. "Ancient Jedi enclave," Numa said, noticing Ben's interest. "Abandoned for centuries, but it serves our purposes." They sat down in a clearing near the ruins. As the ramp lowered, Ben saw a small group waiting to receive them. Most appeared to be soldiers or technicians, but one figure stood apart, a Togruta female with distinctive white and blue headtails, wearing worn armor adorned with unfamiliar markings. "Ahsoka," Numa said with evident relief. "I wasn't sure you'd be here. When I heard your report, I made it a priority." The Togruta's eyes fixed on Ben. "So, this is our mysterious visitor, Ben10. He introduced himself cautiously. "Ahsoka Tano." She studied him with penetrating eyes. "I sense something unusual about you. A connection to the Force, but different. Fluctuating. That would be because of this." Ben held up his wrist, displaying the Omnitrix. "It lets me transform into different aliens, and apparently, each one connects to your Force differently." Ahsoka's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting. Very interesting." She turned to Numa. "Has he demonstrated these abilities?" "Took down 4 TIE fighters without breaking a sweat." Numa confirmed. "And from what he's told me, that's just the beginning of what he can do." Ahsoka nodded. "We should continue this discussion inside. Imperial probe droids have been spotted in the sector." They entered the ancient structure, passing through corridors of weathered stone inscribed with symbols Ben couldn't read. The rebels had established a functional base within the ruins, with modern technology integrated seamlessly into the ancient architecture. In what appeared to be a central meeting chamber, Ahsoka activated a holographic display showing a star map. "The situation has grown dire since we lost contact with Terran Sol," she began. "Imperial forces have locked down the entire Tatooine system. Star destroyers are conducting grid-pattern searches of nearby sectors. They're committing resources I haven't seen since the hunt for the last known Jedi." "All this for me?" Ben asked incredulously. "For what you represent," Ahsoka corrected, "a power outside their control. The Empire cannot abide such things." She studied him thoughtfully. "Numa tells me you're from another reality entirely. That presents both problems and opportunities." "I just want to find a way home," Ben said, "and we'll help you," Ahsoka assured him. "But first, we need to understand exactly what happened. How you came to be here, and why the Force seems to be amplifying your abilities so dramatically." Ben recounted his story. The fight with Vilgax's drone, the tear in reality, his arrival on Tatooine. As he spoke, Ahsoka's expression grew increasingly troubled. "A rift in hyperspace," she mused when he finished. "That's concerning." Hyperspace isn't just a means of travel in our galaxy. It's a dimensional layer that intersects with real space at specific points. If something tore a hole between your reality and ours through hyperspace, then I might be able to use hyperspace to get back, Ben concluded hopefully. Possibly, but it would require precise calculations, enormous power, and... She hesitated. Knowledge of the Force that few possess. Numa leaned forward. What aren't you telling us, Ahsoka? The Togruta sighed. There are legends, ancient Jedi texts that speak of places where reality itself is thin, vergences in the Force where the boundaries between dimensions can be traversed. Most believe them to be metaphorical, but now you're not so sure, Ben finished. No, not since meeting you. Ahsoka's gaze fixed on the Omnitrix. May I? Ben cautiously extended his arm. Like Taryn before her, Ahsoka did not touch the device, merely hovering her hand above it, eyes closed in concentration. Incredible, she murmured. It contains genetic material from dozens of species, yet they're incomplete somehow. Echoes, rather than the real thing, and the energy matrix binding it all together. Her eyes opened suddenly. It's similar to a kyber crystal. That's what Taryn said, Ben recalled. He thought that might be why I was brought here. It would explain the resonance with the Force, Ahsoka agreed. Your device operates on principles not entirely dissimilar from our most sacred artifacts. A young rebel officer interrupted, approaching with urgent steps. Commander Tano, we're receiving reports of Imperial activity in the system. A star destroyer has dropped out of hyperspace near the outer planets. Ahsoka's expression hardened. They've tracked us somehow. She turned to Ben. The Omnitrix. Its energy signature must be detectable through the Force. Vader is hunting you personally. What do we do? Ben asked, the gravity of the situation settling on his shoulders. We have contingency plans, Ahsoka assured him, but we need time to evacuate. I can buy you that time, Ben said firmly, standing. If Vader wants me, I'll give him something to chase. Absolutely not, Ahsoka said sharply. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Vader is not just another enemy. He's... What? Ben pressed. What is he? What is he? Ahsoka's eyes clouded with old pain. He was once the greatest Jedi Knight in the galaxy. Now he's the most dangerous servant of the dark side. Even with your abilities, you're not ready to face him. Then teach me, Ben insisted. Show me how to use this Force properly. Taryn started to, but he faltered, remembering the old Jedi's fate. Ahsoka studied him for a long moment. There's no time for proper training. But perhaps... She looked to the Omnitrix again. Which of your forms felt most attuned to the Force? Most. Natural? Ben considered. Wild Mutt, I think. The one that looks like a big orange dog without eyes. When I was him, I could sense things before they happened. A form that relies on instinct rather than conscious thought. Ahsoka nodded. That might work. The Force often flows more freely when we surrender to it rather than trying to control it. She led Ben to a quieter section of the ruins, a small courtyard open to the sky. Ancient stone benches surrounded a circular design inlaid in the floor. This was once a meditation chamber for Jedi Padawans, Ahsoka explained. The Force still flows strongly here. Ben activated the Omnitrix, transforming into Wild Mutt. The orange-furred alien form crouched low, sniffing the air curiously. Good, Ahsoka said. Now, center yourself. Feel the living Force around you. Don't try to direct it. Let it flow through you naturally. Wild Mutt growled uncertainly but followed her instructions, stilling his restless movements. Through his enhanced senses, he became aware of something he hadn't noticed before. Currents of energy flowing through everything. The stones beneath his feet, the air around him. Ahsoka herself, blazing like a beacon. Yes, she encouraged. That's it. You're sensing the Force. Now, extend your awareness. Reach beyond this place. Wildmutt concentrated, pushing his senses outward. At first, there was only confusion, too many inputs, too much information, but gradually, patterns emerged. He could feel the life forces of everyone in the rebel base, the animals in the surrounding grasslands, and far above, cold and mechanical yet somehow alive, the Star Destroyer. And aboard it, a presence so dark and powerful it made Wildmutt recoil physically. "You felt him," Ahsoka said grimly. "Vader." Wildmutt growled in confirmation, reverting to human form as the Omnitrix timed out. Ben's face was pale. He felt wrong, like a black hole in the middle of all that energy. "The dark side of the Force," Ahsoka explained. "Power drawn from pain, fear, and anger. It's what gives the Sith their strength, and what corrupts them." "And he sensed me too, didn't he?" Ben realized. Ahsoka nodded gravely. "Yes, which means we have even less time than I thought." A rebel soldier ran into the courtyard. "Commander, Imperial landing craft entering the atmosphere. ETA 4 minutes. Begin evacuation procedures," Ahsoka ordered. "All non-essential personnel to the transport ships. Immediately." As the soldier hurried away, Ben made a decision. "I'm going to help. You evacuate your people. I'll slow down the Imperials." "Ben, you don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." He looked down at the Omnitrix. "Terran died to give me a chance. I'm not going to waste it by running. Not when I can make a difference." Ahsoka regarded him with new respect. "Your courage does you credit. But we're not separating. The rebellion needs resources, yes, but it needs hope more. And you, Ben10, could give people something to believe in." She activated her comlink. "Numa, prepare the Ghost for immediate departure. Special cargo." "The Ghost?" Ben questioned. "A faster ship than the Whisperbird. And we'll need the speed." Ahsoka placed a hand on his shoulder. "I have an idea of where we might find answers about getting you home, but we need to leave now." As they hurried through the ruins toward the landing pads, Ben felt the Omnitrix grow warm against his skin. The interface glowed brightly, cycling through alien silhouettes of its own accord. "It's reacting to something," he said, showing Ahsoka. She frowned. "The Force convergence here must be affecting it. These ruins contain kyber crystals within their foundation stones." They reached the landing area just as Imperial dropships became visible on the horizon. Most of the rebel transports were already airborne, racing for the safety of space. A sleek freighter with angular lines and a distinctive paint scheme waited for them, engines already humming with pre-launch sequences. "The Ghost," Ahsoka explained. "One of our fastest ships." As they ran for the boarding ramp, Ben noticed the Omnitrix's cycling had stopped on an unfamiliar silhouette, one he had never seen before. "Ahsoka," he said urgently, "something's happening with the watch." Before she could respond, the device activated of its own accord. Green light enveloped Ben, but this transformation felt different, more intense, more complete. When it faded, he found himself in a form unlike any he had experienced before. His body was humanoid but composed of swirling energy, green and blue intertwined like a living nebula. Stars seemed to glimmer within the depths of his form, and when he moved, afterimages trailed behind him like comet tails. "Ben?" Ahsoka stared in shock. "What is this?" "I don't know," he replied, his voice echoing strangely, as though coming from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "I've never transformed into this alien before." Ahsoka approached cautiously. "The Force it's pouring through you. I've never felt anything like it." The Imperial dropships were growing larger, weapon systems activating as they approached. Ben raised a hand instinctively, and to his astonishment, the lead ship simply stopped. Frozen in mid-air, its engines straining against an invisible hold. "How are you doing that?" Ahsoka whispered. "I don't know," Ben admitted. "It just feels natural. With a gesture, he sent the dropship tumbling sideways, crashing into its companion. Both vessels spiraled toward the ground, their crews ejecting in emergency pods. But even as he marveled at this new power, Ben felt a warning through the Force, a cold pressure bearing down on them from above. "Vader," he and Ahsoka said simultaneously. "We need to go," she urged, pulling him toward the Ghost's ramp. "Now." As they boarded, Ben looked up to see a small shuttle descending rapidly toward the ruins, its design distinctive and threatening. Aboard it, that same dark presence he had sensed earlier, now focused entirely on him. The Ghost's engines roared to life. The ship lifted off, banking sharply to avoid defensive fire from the remaining Imperial craft. Ben watched through the viewport as the black shuttle landed where they had stood moments before. A figure emerged, tall, encased in armor as dark as space itself, cape billowing in the engine wash of his vessel. Darth Vader had arrived just moments too late. The Ghost accelerated into Dantooine's upper atmosphere, pursued by TIE fighters that seemed to materialize from nowhere. In the ship's cockpit, Numa worked the controls with practiced efficiency. "Calculations complete," she announced. "Ready to jump to hyperspace on your mark, Commander." "Wait," Ben said, still in his energy form. I think I can help." He moved to the center of the cockpit, raising his arms. The swirling energy of his body intensified, stars within his form aligning in patterns that seemed to reflect the layout of the ship itself. "What are you doing?" Ahsoka asked, both fascinated and alarmed. "Connecting with the ship," Ben replied, his voice distant. "I can feel its systems, its engines, and the space around us." Through his newfound senses, Ben could perceive the fabric of reality itself, the thin membrane separating real space from the dimension they called hyperspace. With gentle pressure, he began to fold it, creating a path for the Ghost that didn't require conventional hyperspace entry protocols. "The hyperdrive is responding without activation," Numa reported in amazement. "Power levels rising on their own." "Ben," Ahsoka said urgently, "be careful. What you're doing. It's not supposed to be possible." But Ben was beyond caution now, merged with the Force in ways even the most powerful Jedi had never achieved. Through his energy form, which he instinctively knew was called Starshift, he could manipulate the very foundations of this galaxy's physics. The TIE fighters closed in, laser fire splashing against the Ghost's shields. But before they could land a killing blow, reality itself seemed to bend around the rebel ship. A tunnel of swirling blue energy opened before them, distinct from the streaking stars of normal hyperspace travel. The Ghost entered the rift, and the pursuing fighters were left behind in real space. Inside the ship, the normal vibrations of hyperspace travel were absent. Instead, they moved through a kaleidoscopic tunnel of energy, stars and nebulae visible through what appeared to be windows in the fabric of space-time itself. "Incredible," Ahsoka breathed. "You've created some kind of Force hyperspace." Ben maintained his concentration, guiding the ship through the dimensional corridor he had created. "I can feel places where the barrier is thinner, vergences like you mentioned." "Can you take us to one?" Ahsoka asked. "One powerful enough to potentially send you home?" Ben nodded, the movement sending ripples through his energy form. "There's one. It's calling to me. Ancient. Powerful." The ship changed course within the tunnel, veering toward what appeared to be a particularly bright nexus of energy. As they approached, Ben began to feel strain. Maintaining this form, this connection to the Force and the ship, was draining him rapidly. "I can't hold this much longer," he warned, his voice growing fainter. "You've done enough," Ahsoka assured him. "We're nearly there." The Ghost emerged from the Force tunnel near a small blue-green planet surrounded by swirling nebula gases. The sight was breathtaking, ribbons of cosmic dust in vivid purples and greens, illuminated by the light of distant stars. As they reverted to real space, Ben collapsed, transforming back to his human form in a flash of exhausted energy. Ahsoka caught him before he hit the deck. "What? Where are we?" he asked weakly. "Ilum," Ahsoka replied softly. "The sacred world of the Jedi. Home to the largest known kyber crystal deposits in the galaxy." Ben struggled to sit up, looking out at the beautiful world through the viewport. "Will it help me get home? If anywhere can, it's Ilum." Ahsoka helped him to a seat. "The Force flows more powerfully here than almost anywhere else in the galaxy. And if your Omnitrix truly resonates with kyber crystals as I suspect, then this is where I need to be," Ben finished. Numa studied her instruments. No signs of Imperial presence in the system. But that won't last. The Empire has been harvesting Ilum's crystals for years for some secret project. "Then we must move quickly," Ahsoka decided. "Numa, put us down near the temple entrance. We'll proceed on foot from there." As the ghost descended toward the planet's surface, Ben felt the Omnitrix warming against his skin again. The interface glowed with swirls of blue energy, responding to the world below. Whatever connection existed between his device and this galaxy's force, it was growing stronger with each passing moment. Whether that was a path home or a deeper entanglement in this galactic conflict remained to be seen. But as the Temple of the Gathering came into view, an ancient structure half buried in ice and snow, Ben felt something he hadn't since arriving in this strange galaxy: hope. The ghost settled onto a plateau of ice near the ancient Jedi temple. Snow swirled around the ship, driven by winds that moaned through crystalline formations rising like frozen sentinels from the landscape. Ben pulled a borrowed thermal jacket tighter around himself as he descended the ramp, the cold immediately biting at his exposed skin. Ahsoka joined him, seemingly unbothered by the frigid temperature. "The Temple of the Gathering," she explained, gesturing to the massive structure before them. "For thousands of years, Jedi younglings came here to find their kyber crystals, the first step in constructing their lightsabers." Ben studied the temple with awe. Despite being partially buried in ice, its grandeur was unmistakable. Massive stone pillars framed an entrance carved with symbols similar to those he had seen in the ruins on Dantooine. Above the doorway, a circular emblem that reminded him of a stylized sun caught the light of the distant star. "It's beautiful," he admitted. "And sacred," Ahsoka added. "One of the few places left where the light side of the Force still flows, uncontaminated by the darkness that has spread across the galaxy." They approached the entrance, Numa remaining with the ghost to guard their escape route. As they drew closer, Ben noticed something unusual about the massive door. It had no visible handles or controls. "How do we get in?" he asked. Ahsoka smiled slightly. "The old way." She extended her hand toward the door, closing her eyes in concentration. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep rumbling sound, the massive stone began to rise, revealing a darkened passage beyond. "The Force," Ben realized. "Yes. The temple responds only to those who can touch it." Ahsoka studied him curiously. "In your energy form. Starshift, did you call it? You might have opened this door with a thought. Your connection to the Force in that form was extraordinary." "Yeah, but I have no idea how to control it," Ben admitted. "It just happened, and now the Omnitrix won't let me access it again." "Perhaps that form is tied to specific conditions," Ahsoka suggested. "Or perhaps it requires a level of Force energy that even Ilum can't provide consistently." They entered the temple, the temperature rising noticeably as they moved deeper into the ancient structure. Walls of ice gave way to stone corridors lined with crystals that emitted a soft, blue-white glow, providing just enough light to navigate by. "These are kyber crystals," Ahsoka explained. "Smaller ones, formed from the runoff of the great crystal caves deeper within the temple." Ben approached one of the glowing formations, reaching out cautiously. As his fingers neared the crystal, the Omnitrix pulsed in response, sending a tingling sensation up his arm. "They're alive," he whispered in awe. "I can feel them." "In a way they are," Ahsoka agreed. Kyber crystals are semi-sentient. They call to those they're meant to bond with. Every Jedi's lightsaber crystal is unique to them, attuned to their specific force signature. They continued deeper into the temple, passing through grand chambers with vaulted ceilings and narrow passages that seemed to shift and change as they traversed them. Ben quickly realized that the temple's interior was far larger than its exterior suggested. "It's like the place is alive," he observed. "The temple tests those who enter," Ahsoka explained. "It presents each seeker with the path they need, not necessarily the one they want." After what felt like hours of walking, they emerged into a vast cavern that took Ben's breath away. The chamber was enormous, its ceiling lost in shadows high above. But what commanded attention was the wall of ice opposite the entrance. A massive, crystalline formation that contained thousands of kyber crystals of various sizes, all glowing with inner light. "The heart of Ilum," Ahsoka said reverently. "The crystal cave." Ben approached the wall in awe. The Omnitrix was reacting strongly now, its interface cycling rapidly through his alien forms, as though searching for something. "What do I do?" he asked. "Listen," Ahsoka advised. "Open yourself to the Force as you did on Dantooine. Let it guide you." Ben closed his eyes, attempting to recapture the sensation he had experienced as Wildmutt. At first, there was only darkness and the sound of his own breathing. But gradually, other sensations emerged. The subtle vibration of the crystals, the flow of energy through the chamber, and voices, thousands of whispers overlapping, calling to him. One voice grew stronger than the others, drawing his attention to a specific point in the crystal wall. Without opening his eyes, Ben moved forward, his hand rising of its own accord to touch the ice. The moment his fingers made contact, a surge of energy flowed from the crystal into the Omnitrix. The device glowed blindingly bright, its usual green light now interlaced with electric blue. Ben felt a connection form, the crystal calling to something within the Omnitrix, and the Omnitrix responding in kind. "Ahsoka," he called urgently, "something's happening." The Togruta approached quickly but maintained a respectful distance. "The crystal has chosen you," she observed. "Or perhaps more accurately, it has chosen your device." "What do I do now?" Ben asked, the energy continuing to flow between the crystal and the Omnitrix. "You must extract it," Ahsoka instructed. "Focus your will on the crystal. Ask it to come to you." Ben concentrated, focusing all his attention on the glowing point within the ice. To his surprise, the ice began to melt around it, revealing a crystal roughly the size of his thumb. It was unlike the others, where most kyber crystals were clear or pale blue. This one shimmered with green energy at its core, surrounded by a blue aura. With trembling fingers, Ben reached for the crystal. As he touched it, the Omnitrix reacted violently, its interface spinning wildly. A surge of energy passed between them, knocking Ben backward. Ahsoka caught him before he could fall, steadying him on his feet. "Are you all right?" she asked with concern. "I think so," Ben replied, examining the Omnitrix. The device had settled, its interface now displaying a new alien silhouette, one he recognized as Starshift. "It worked. The form is unlocked now." "Not just unlocked," Ahsoka observed. "Look." Ben followed her gaze to the crystal in his palm. It had changed, becoming smaller and more defined. As they watched, it rose into the air of its own accord, hovering between them momentarily before moving toward the Omnitrix. "What's it doing?" Ben asked nervously. "Fulfilling its purpose," Ahsoka replied. "Every kyber crystal is meant to power something. For Jedi, it's our lightsabers. For this one." The crystal touched the face of the Omnitrix and, to Ben's astonishment, phased into it. The device absorbed the crystal completely, its interface flickering briefly before stabilizing with a new symbol at its center. The Omnitrix's hourglass merged with a starburst pattern reminiscent of the Jedi emblem. "It's part of the watch now," Ben realized. And the watch is part of it, Ahsoka added. I believe you've just created something unique in the galaxy, a fusion of your technology with one of our most sacred artifacts. Ben stared at the modified Omnitrix in wonder. What does this mean? Can it help me get home? I believe so. Ahsoka nodded. The Kyber crystal has attuned itself to your specific frequency, your home reality. In theory, it could act as a compass, guiding you back to where you belong. How do we test it? Ahsoka was about to respond when the temple shuddered around them. Dust and small ice fragments rained down from the ceiling. What was that? Ben asked, alarmed. Ahsoka's expression darkened. We've been found. They raced back through the temple corridors, the path seeming to straighten and simplify as though the temple itself was aiding their escape. As they approached the entrance, Ahsoka's comlink chirped urgently. Commander! Numa's voice crackled through. Imperial forces have entered the system, Star Destroyer in orbit, TIE bombers approaching the temple. Start the engines, Ahsoka ordered. We'll be there in moments. They emerged from the temple into a changed landscape. The peaceful snowfield was now marked by smoldering craters where TIE bombers had strafed the area. The Ghost sat on its landing struts, engines glowing hot as Numa prepared for immediate takeoff. But between them and the ship stood a familiar, dreaded figure. Darth Vader, his black armor stark against the white snow, lightsaber ignited and casting a crimson glow across the ice. Ahsoka Tano, his mechanical voice carried across the distance. You have something that belongs to the Emperor. Ahsoka stepped forward, placing herself between Ben and the Sith Lord. He doesn't belong to anyone, Anakin, least of all your master. That name no longer has meaning, Vader replied coldly. Surrender the boy and the device, and I may permit you to live. Ben felt fear grip him, but alongside it, determination. He activated the Omnitrix, cycling to the form that now called to him most strongly. Ahsoka, he said quietly. Get to the ship. Ben, no, you don't understand what you're facing. Trust me, he insisted, finding the silhouette of Starshift. I think I do now. Before she could protest further, Ben slammed his palm onto the Omnitrix. The transformation was even more dramatic than before, energy swirling around him in a vortex of green and blue light. When it cleared, he stood in his cosmic form, but changed, more defined, more controlled, with the Kyber crystal's energy visibly integrated into his being. Even Vader seemed taken aback, his stance shifting slightly. Fascinating, the Sith Lord observed. The Force is strong with this one, but untrained, undisciplined. Ben raised his hands, star-like energy coalescing around them. Maybe, but I'm a fast learner. He thrust his arms forward, sending a wave of pure Force energy toward Vader. The Sith Lord raised his hand, deflecting the blast, but was pushed back several meters by its power. Impressive, Vader acknowledged. Most impressive. Ahsoka ignited her own lightsabers, twin blades of pure white energy. Ben, go, I'll hold him off. Not a chance, Ben replied. We leave together or not at all. Vader advanced, his lightsaber cutting a burning arc through the air. Ben reached out with his enhanced senses, feeling the currents of the Force flowing around them. With a gesture, he lifted several massive ice chunks from the ground, hurling them toward Vader. The Sith Lord sliced through them effortlessly, but the distraction allowed Ahsoka to leap forward, her lightsabers clashing against Vader's in a blaze of energy. The duel that followed was unlike anything Ben had ever witnessed. Ahsoka moved with incredible speed and grace, her twin blades a blur of motion as she pressed her attack. Vader countered with raw power, each stroke of his crimson blade carrying enough force to shatter stone. Ben circled around, looking for an opening to assist without endangering Ahsoka. The Force flowed through his Starshift form, suggesting moves and countermoves before he even consciously considered them. When Vader forced Ahsoka back with a powerful Force push, Ben seized his opportunity. Drawing on the Kyber crystal's energy now integrated with the Omnitrix, he created a localized gravity well between the combatants, momentarily immobilizing Vader. "Now," he shouted to Ahsoka, "run!" They sprinted for the Ghost, whose ramp was already lowered in anticipation. Vader broke free of the gravitational effect with a surge of dark force energy, his rage palpable even at a distance. "You cannot escape," he bellowed, reaching out with the force to grip the Ghost's landing struts, holding the ship in place even as its engines strained to lift off. Ben turned to face him one last time. Drawing deeply on his connection to Ilum's Kyber crystals, he created a swirling vortex of force energy around Vader, temporarily cutting the Sith Lord off from his power. The effort was tremendous, draining Ben's energy reserves rapidly. As they reached the ship's ramp, he collapsed, reverting to human form. Ahsoka dragged him aboard, the ramp closing behind them. "Go!" she shouted to Numa. "Maximum thrust." The Ghost broke free of Vader's hold as the Sith Lord fought through Ben's force vortex. The ship rocketed skyward, banking sharply to avoid incoming TIE fighters. In the cargo hold, Ben lay exhausted but triumphant. Did we make it?" Ahsoka knelt beside him, concern evident in her expression. "For now, but Vader won't stop hunting us. Or you." "Then I need to leave," Ben said firmly. "Not just this planet, this galaxy. I need to find my way home." Ahsoka nodded gravely. "I believe the crystal you bonded with can help, but the power required to create another interdimensional rift, it's beyond anything even the Jedi at their height could achieve." Ben looked down at the modified Omnitrix. "Maybe not for Starshift. With the Kyber crystal's energy, I think I can do it. But I'll need to be somewhere the Force flows strongly." "There is one place," Ahsoka said thoughtfully. "A nexus point even more powerful than Ilum. The ancient world of Lothal, home to a temple that contains a gateway to what we call the world between worlds." "Sounds like exactly what I need." Ben managed a weak smile. "Set a course?" Above them, the Ghost broke through Ilum's atmosphere into the star-strewn blackness of space. The Imperial Star Destroyer loomed ahead, launching fighters to intercept them. "Hyperspace coordinates locked," Numa called from the cockpit, jumping in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched into lines as the Ghost leapt into hyperspace, leaving Vader and his forces behind. For now, in his meditation chamber aboard the Star Destroyer, Darth Vader knelt in silence. The encounter with the boy had left him with much to consider. The power he had witnessed was unlike anything in his experience, not Jedi, not Sith, yet somehow connected to the Force in ways even he did not fully comprehend. And Ahsoka Tano, his former Padawan, still alive, still defying the Empire, still believing in the man he had once been. The Emperor's hologram flickered into existence before him. "Lord Vader, what news of the alien device?" "It has bonded with a Kyber crystal, my master," Vader reported. "Its power has grown exponentially." "Most concerning," the Emperor's withered face contorted in thought. "And where has the boy gone?" "I believe they seek the temple on Lothal," Vader replied. "Ahsoka Tano guides him." A slow, sinister smile spread across the Emperor's face. "Then we have them. I have foreseen this possibility. Grand Admiral Thrawn's fleet is already in position near Lothal. They will not escape." "Yes, my master." "Bring me this device, Lord Vader," the Emperor commanded. "With its power, we can reshape the very fabric of the Force itself." The hologram faded, leaving Vader alone with his thoughts. The boy's power, amplified by the Kyber crystal, if he could be turned to the dark side. No, the Emperor must not know of these thoughts. For now, he would follow his master's orders. But the seed of an idea had been planted. The Ghost emerged from hyperspace near Lothal, a peaceful-looking world of vast grasslands and shallow seas. From orbit, it appeared untouched by the galactic conflict, but appearances could be deceiving. "Imperial presence?" Ahsoka asked as they approached. Numa checked the sensors, minimal activity on standard frequencies. But something doesn't feel right. Ben, recovered somewhat from his exertions on Elam, joined them in the cockpit. The modified Omnitrix glowed softly on his wrist, the Kyber crystal's energy pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "The crystal," he observed. "It's reacting to this place." Ahsoka nodded. Lothal has always had a special connection to the Force. The ancient temple here contains pathways to other times, other places. If anywhere in this galaxy can help you return home, it's there. They descended through the atmosphere, keeping to the cloud cover to avoid detection. The ship set down in a remote area where tall grass swayed in the gentle breeze, concealing their presence from casual observation. "The temple is about 2 kilometers east," Ahsoka explained as they disembarked. "But finding it won't be simple. It only reveals itself to those worthy of its secrets." "And how do we prove ourselves worthy?" Ben asked. Ahsoka smiled mysteriously. "We don't. The temple decides." They set off across the grasslands, Numa remaining with the ship once again. The planet had a serene beauty to it, untamed wilderness stretching to the horizon, punctuated by the occasional rock formation or stand of trees. In the distance, a small herd of lothcats bounded through the tall grass, pausing occasionally, to eye the strangers warily. "This place feels different," Ben observed. "Peaceful, but with something powerful underneath." "Lothal exists in balance," Ahsoka explained. "The light and dark sides of the Force coexist here in harmony. It's rare in the galaxy now, especially with the Empire's shadow spreading everywhere." As they walked, Ben felt the Omnitrix growing warmer against his skin. The Kyber crystal's energy seemed to be responding to something, pulling him in a specific direction. "I think it's guiding us," he said, showing Ahsoka how the interface pulsed brighter when he turned in a particular direction. "The crystal knows where it belongs," she agreed. "Follow its call." They adjusted their course, the Omnitrix's pulsing growing stronger as they approached what appeared to be a completely unremarkable section of the grasslands. No structures were visible, no signs of the temple Ahsoka had described. "Are you sure this is right?" Ben asked dubiously. "The temple is hidden from those who would misuse its power," Ahsoka reminded him. "We must prove our intentions are pure." She knelt in the grass, closing her eyes in meditation. After a moment's hesitation, Ben joined her, attempting to clear his mind as she had taught him during their journey. At first, nothing happened. The wind continued to rustle through the grass, and distant birds called to each other across the plains. But gradually, Ben became aware of something changing. The quality of the light, the feeling of the ground beneath him. He opened his eyes to find the landscape transformed. Where there had been only empty grassland, a massive, stepped pyramid now rose before them, its ancient stone weathered by thousands of years of exposure to the elements. Symbols similar to those in the Ilum temple adorned its surface, glowing faintly with inner light. "Whoa," Ben breathed. "Was that there the whole time?" In a manner of speaking, Ahsoka rose gracefully to her feet. "The temple exists, in all times, simultaneously. We simply needed to attune ourselves to its particular frequency to perceive it." They approached the structure with reverence. The Omnitrix was now glowing so brightly that its light was visible even in the daylight, the Kyber crystal's energy resonating strongly with the temple. At the base of the pyramid, a doorway opened into darkness. Unlike the Ilum temple, no obvious mechanisms controlled this entrance. It simply appeared, as though the temple had decided to admit them of its own accord. "The temple has judged us worthy," Ahsoka observed. "At least for now, we should hurry." Its moods are mercurial. They entered the dark passage, which sloped downward into the heart of the pyramid. Unlike Ilum's crystal-illuminated corridors, this temple was dark, with only occasional glyphs glowing with pale fire to mark the path. "Stay close," Ahsoka warned. "The temple has been known to separate those who enter, testing each according to their nature." Ben nodded, following closely behind her as they descended deeper into the ancient structure. The air grew cooler, charged with an energy he recognized from his time as Starshift, pure, unrefined force power. After what felt like an eternity of walking, they emerged into a circular chamber at what must have been the heart of the pyramid. The room was dominated by a strange, ring-shaped doorway built into one wall. Symbols carved into its surface glowed with shifting patterns of light. "The gateway," Ahsoka said reverently. "The entrance to the world between worlds." Ben approached it cautiously, the Omnitrix pulsing in perfect synchronicity with the doorway's glowing symbols. "What exactly is this world between worlds?" "A plane of existence that connects all time and space," Ahsoka explained. "A place where past, present, and future exist simultaneously, where reality itself can be traversed." "And you think I can use it to get home?" "With the Kyber crystal guiding you, yes." Ahsoka placed a hand on his shoulder. "But Ben, you must understand, what lies beyond that doorway is dangerous. Pathways that lead to places and times that should perhaps remain untouched. The temptation to alter events, to change what was or what will be." "I just want to go home," Ben assured her. "Back to my family, my friends." Ahsoka studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "I believe you. The question is, will the temple?" As if in response to her words, the symbols on the gateway flared brightly. The circular opening within the ring began to shimmer, reality itself seeming to thin and waver. "It's opening," Ahsoka whispered. "The temple is granting you access." Ben stepped toward the gateway, the Omnitrix glowing with increasing intensity. As he neared the threshold, the device's interface shifted to Starshift's silhouette of its own accord. "I think I need to transform," Ben realized. "Starshift is the only one who can navigate this place." He activated the Omnitrix, and in a flash of green and blue light, transformed into his cosmic form. The effect was immediate. The gateway responded to his presence, the shimmering barrier parting like a curtain to reveal a starlit void beyond. Pathways of pure white energy stretched into infinity, connecting countless other doorways that floated in the blackness. "The world between worlds," Ahsoka confirmed. "Now you must find the path that leads to your reality." Starshift stepped toward the threshold, feeling the pull of the Kyber crystal guiding him. But before he could cross over, a cold, familiar presence touched his consciousness. "Ahsoka," he warned, "Vader is coming. I can feel him." Her expression hardened. "Then we have even less time than I thought. You must go now, Ben. Find your way home while I hold him off." "I can't just leave you to face him alone," Ben protested. "Not after everything you've done for me." "This is my fight," Ahsoka said firmly. "It has been since the day Anakin Skywalker fell to the dark side. You have your own destiny, your own battles to fight." She smiled sadly. "In another galaxy far, far away." The temple shuddered around them, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. Somewhere above, the distinctive sound of TIE fighters could be heard, followed by explosions. "They're bombing the temple," Ahsoka realized. "They mean to collapse it with us inside rather than risk you escaping." Ben hesitated, torn between his desire to return home and his unwillingness to abandon his friend. "Go," Ahsoka urged, igniting her lightsabers as the sound of mechanical breathing echoed down the corridor behind them. "Your friends, your family, they need you more than we do." With a heavy heart, Ben nodded. "I'll never forget what you did for me. What Taryn did." "May the Force be with you, Ben10, Ahsoka said softly. "Always." As Darth Vader's imposing silhouette appeared in the chamber entrance, Ben stepped through the gateway into the world between worlds. The last thing he saw before the portal closed behind him was Ahsoka Tano, lightsabers raised, facing the Dark Lord of the Sith with unwavering courage. The world between worlds was unlike anything Ben had ever experienced. As Starshift, he floated along pathways of pure Force energy, surrounded by the infinite expanse of time and space. Doorways appeared around him, each one a window into a different time, a different place. Through some, he caught glimpses of events he recognized from his brief time in the galaxy, the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire. Others showed him moments he had never witnessed, ancient Jedi battling Sith lords, civilizations rising and falling across the cosmos. The kyber crystal within the Omnitrix guided him, its energy creating a tether that pulled him toward a specific path. As he followed it, the countless doorways began to blur and fade, until only one remained, a portal that glowed with a familiar energy signature distinct from the force-infused reality he had been traversing, his home. As he approached the final doorway, Ben felt the Omnitrix beginning to strain against the energies of the world between worlds. Even Starshift, with all his power, could not maintain stability in this place indefinitely. The kyber crystal was being drained, its light dimming as it spent itself creating this final bridge between realities. With a surge of determination, Ben pushed through the portal. Reality twisted around him, compressed to a single point of light, then expanded explosively. The sensation was both familiar and alien, like his initial journey to the Star Wars galaxy, but in reverse, with the added guidance of the kyber crystal preventing him from being lost between dimensions. A final surge of energy, a blinding flash of light, and Ben10 fell from the sky above Bellwood, the Omnitrix timing out as he plummeted toward the familiar landscape below. The last reserves of the kyber crystal's power cushioned his fall, depositing him gently on the grassy knoll where his adventure had begun. As he regained his senses, Ben looked around in disbelief. Everything was exactly as he had left it. The battle damage from Vilgax's drone, the scorched earth where the dimensional rift had opened, and in the distance, the familiar shapes of Gwen and Grandpa Max searching frantically for him. Ben! Ben! Gwen's voice carried across the field as she spotted him. Where have you been? You disappeared for hours. Hours, not days. Time had passed differently between the dimensions. To them, he had simply vanished during the battle. To him, he had lived through an epic adventure in a galaxy far, far away. As his family reached him, embracing him with relief and confusion, Ben looked down at the Omnitrix. Its interface had returned to its normal green glow, the kyber crystal's energy apparently spent in returning him home. But something had changed. A small symbol, barely visible unless one knew to look for it, had been added to the device's faceplate, the emblem of the Jedi Order, a permanent reminder of his journey. Ben, what happened to you? Grandpa Max asked, concern etched across his weathered features. One minute you were fighting Vilgax's drone, the next you vanished into thin air. Ben smiled tiredly. It's a long story, Grandpa, about courage, sacrifice, and the balance between light and darkness. He looked up at the sky, wondering if somewhere in another dimension, Ahsoka Tano still fought for freedom against the Empire, if the rebellion would eventually succeed, if the balance of the Force would be restored. The Omnitrix hummed softly against his wrist, a barely perceptible resonance that hadn't been there before. Perhaps an echo of the kyber crystal's energy, or perhaps something more, a connection to the Force that transcended dimensions. A reminder that even worlds apart, those who fight for what's right are never truly alone. You know what? Ben said, turning back to his family with renewed determination. I'll tell you all about it on the way back to the Rust Bucket. But first, I think we've still got a drone to deal with. With a practiced motion, he activated the Omnitrix, cycling to an alien form that felt right for the task ahead. As he transformed, he carried with him the lessons of his journey, about power and responsibility, about sacrifice and hope, about being a hero, not just on Earth, but across the stars. After all, as a wise Jedi once told him, the Force surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together. And perhaps, in some small way, it bound all galaxies, all realities, in the eternal struggle between light and darkness. A struggle in which Ben10, wielder of the Omnitrix, would always stand on the side of light.